What's up guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Abonomics. Before kicking things off, I just want to go ahead and give a brief introduction about the channel and the things you can go ahead and expect from it. In general, I intend to dive into economic themes and everything finance, as well as personal finance and investments. But what my particular passion is the stock market. So we'll be looking at fundamentals and technicals of different stocks. I'll try to go ahead and do one stock per week. And I want to go ahead and share my experience with you guys and just some tips and tricks that I've learned through my time dealing with the stock market. But in essence, I want to go ahead and use this channel as a medium of education, for me and for you. We can go ahead and share ideas and topics in the comments and just create a small community where, there's a benefit towards you, but, I also gain a little bit from it. So having that said, let's go ahead and get started. Today I want to go ahead and review the 10Q of Datadog. Datadog is a specific company that trades in the financial markets. It just went public in 2019 and it's had a very spectacular run actually from where it started. So we'll be looking at their fundamentals, their revenues, their losses, their debt, and just overall if they've produced a profit yet, which is actually pretty important for a company. So Datadog started trading at around $36 as it's now sitting at 105, which like I said is a pretty extraordinary run for a company. Year to date it's actually up 125%, which is really nice. So I know what you're thinking. In the COVID age, there's a lot of other stocks that have gone up dramatically more than Datadog. Having that said though, maybe that makes Datadog a buying opportunity. I guess we won't really know until we dive into it. Another reason though to go ahead and look at 10Qs and 10Ks, even if you are not particularly interested in Datadog, is because maybe Datadog has a competitor that you are interested in and are thinking of buying. And so, for example, if I was Coca-Cola, I would want to go ahead and take a look at what Pepsi is doing. And I would want to go ahead and look at their financial statements and just overall status to see if they're in a better financial state than Coca-Cola. Maybe I want to go ahead and put my money into Pepsi because I see that Pepsi is growing more, has more revenues, or just in general, their opportunities are better than Coca-Cola. And since cloud is the future and there are a lot of cloud services out there, I think Datadog should be in your arsenal to go ahead and be a comparison for other companies. Now, to give a small overview of what Datadog does, they're basically a cloud service. And so what companies will do is that they'll upload their information into Datadog. Datadog will go ahead and organize and synthesize that information and will go ahead and give the company specific analytical tools in order to go ahead and reach certain conclusions. Another cool thing about the service is that you can come into forums where different people can go ahead and analyze the same information. They can highlight and make comments on it, and they can go ahead and reach their own conclusion and problem solve. And as you can imagine, in the COVID age, where people can't come into a room with a whiteboard and do these things, Datadog provides that services for them and is actually pretty powerful. So now that we've established that and have an idea of what they do, let's go ahead and take a look at their financials and just a little bit more about the business model. So I'll go ahead and cut this video here and just move over to the desktop. I'll go ahead and show you how to reach their 10Qs just from a browser and how to basically analyze all this information. Coming right into your screen, you can go ahead and just pull up the Google Chrome, Safari, whatever it is that you have that you want to go ahead and use. We can go ahead and just Google Datadog Investor Relations. And it's going to be the same thing for any other public company. So Apple Investor Relations, Boeing Investor Relations, same difference. You can go ahead and find it. Sometimes they're a little tricky to find, but they'll usually be here at financials. So we can go ahead and look at quarterly results. That will go ahead and bring up the latest quarter. Now for Datadog, Q4 actually comes out to be quarter number 4. So for this one, if you want to go ahead and see the latest quarterly earnings, you can go ahead and find them here. However, their latest quarterly earnings actually correlate with their 10K, which they'll be releasing sometime here in February. And so if we want to go straight into the source, and look at an actual 10Q, we can go ahead and look at SEC filings, move down here, quarterly filings, and filing in the year of 2020, because there won't be any for 2021, unfortunately. They'll just be the 10K, and then next quarter they'll go ahead and give out a 10Q. So we can go ahead and do quarterly findings of the 10Q. You can go ahead and see that their first quarter is actually May 12th, second quarter August 10th, and then last quarter's November 12th. And this is the one we'll be looking at. So quarterly report, which provides a continuing view of a company's financial position. We can go ahead and just click on that. Scroll down here. Different filing formats in which you can go and download it. I usually just do PDF or HTML. We'll just do HTML for now. And so here we are. This is the source, guys. This is what we want to go ahead and look at. Do not take anyone's word for it. Just go ahead and stimulate your mind and look at it yourself. Something to note before getting started. I won't go over everything there is to see on the 10Q, and I definitely don't pretend to understand all the accounting behind it. I do believe seeing the numbers for yourself and taking, like I said, taking someone else's word from a pro or from a guru, it's extremely stimulating for your financial mind. And in essence, I think you should look at this balance sheet as if it were your own household. You know, how much are we bringing in through an investment? How much do we have in debt? You know, what are our revenues, etc., etc. There's many stocks out there with so much hype, but I can tell you for a fact that their financials are trash. A friend of mine, Oscar, and I were just looking at one where it had so much quote unquote value, or the stock was just going through the roof, but their financials were really not that great. But anyway, moving on. This is what an SEC filing should look like. Let's go up again, actually. So first thing I want to start off with, and it's actually important to Datadog, is that they're actually not incorporated in New York. That's just the address of the principal executive office. In other words, that's just, you know, where they're currently sitting in their desk. However, they are incorporated in Delaware. And that's important for a few reasons. You know, when you're incorporated in Delaware, there's quicker legal disputes if you want to go ahead and get something done. And there's an overall smaller tax bill. We can go ahead and, you know, go over that in the future. But a lot of Fortune 500 companies and a lot of public companies will actually go ahead and be incorporated in Delaware. That's no new news. So here in the table of contents, you can actually go ahead and click, and it'll take you directly into whatever it is that you want to find. So for our purposes, financial information. So here we go, part 1, financial information. Now, something else I forgot to say is that this document is only 67 pages long, which if you actually wanted to read it all, 67 pages is fairly doable, maybe in a day, or just, you know, depending on how fast you read or understand. But that 67 pages is another reason why I wanted to go ahead and do Datadog, because in comparison to a lot of huge companies, you know, a 10Q will have over 100 pages, which is just gnarly to look at and just gnarly to read over. So, you know, starting off, beginners, let's go ahead and just look at a small company. So some things to highlight here before starting off is that all of these quantities are actually in thousands. So if you look at here, in thousand except share and per share. So any digit on here will go ahead and count as 1,000. So the way you go ahead and read this, let's just say, for example, this number here is that we would do $21,199,000 or $2,444,000. I wish there was a smaller number here. Yeah, I wish there was a smaller number here, but you guys get the gist. So everything is going to go ahead and be counted in millions. And we're comparing two different time intervals, September 30th of 2020 and December 31st of 2019 are the two intervals that are being compared here. So let's go ahead and start. Assets. Assets are things that we own, things that we have, things that make the company valuable. And so in current assets, cash and cash equivalents, pretty important thing to have. You know, money in the bank or just money that you have at the moment. Datadog is looking at 198,523,000. in September, as of September 30th, 2020, in comparison to ending December 31st of 2019, they had 597,297,000. So that's a jump in that's a jump lower for sure. 200 million compared to 600 million, 400 million difference. But if we look at their marketable securities, we're looking at 1,296,261,000 compared to 176 million. That is a huge jump. And what are marketable securities? If we do a quick Google search, we can see that marketable securities are just assets that can be liquidated to cash quickly, such as treasury bonds, etc., etc. Not going to go too deep into that, just to go ahead and keep it simple for you guys. But they have quite a good amount of marketable securities, that puts them in a good position. Apart from that, I'll go ahead and just be looking at the big numbers here, guys. So, if you guys do have questions, we can probably just leave it in the comments here. In total current assets, we're looking at 1,652,975,000 compared to almost 1 billion last year, only 903 million. So that's pretty good. I like that number. It's an increasing number, of course, and it means they got plenty of cash to burn. In case things are going sour or things are not going their way starting off. The next line, property and equipment, that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go over that, but they have increased in terms of the amount of property and equipment they have. 10 million increase, so that's nice. Obviously, as their activities have increased, this will go ahead and increase with it. Operating lease assets, which are 55 million compared to 53 million. Goodwill 17 million compared to 9 million, and just a couple other miscellaneous lines on here. Total assets, we're looking at 1,814,284,000 compared to last year, which was only of around 1 billion. So looking good so far. I like this number. It's a big number, meaning if we had to go ahead and liquidate this company, they would have plenty of money to give out, so that's nice. Next thing to look at, current liabilities. Now, when we think current, we want to go ahead and think short term. Basically means that you have 1 year or less, right? So this stuff needs to be paid within 1 year or less. So accounts payable, these are going to be services that we already consumed as a company but have not paid out. Datadog currently has $21,199,000 worth of that. More than last year, however, I would not be concerned as a company to go ahead and see this number. Accounts payable or just big accounts payable numbers like this, even if it's a lot for us, not really that much for a company of Datadog size. Now, if this had a couple more digits, then I would probably be very concerned, but at the moment, it's not a huge concern. Accrued expense and other current liabilities, 54 million compared to 38 million. Moving on, operating and lease liabilities. We all know what a lease is on an office or something like that. 15 million compared to 11 million. Deferred revenue, 164 million compared to 134 million. Like I said, guys, I know some of these terms may not be super familiar, but hopefully in future we'll be looking at these more obscure terms. For now, I want to go ahead and just keep it simple, and we'll be looking at just the major parts of a consolidated balance sheet. In total, Datadog has current liabilities, so they have to pay within a year, of 254,650,000 compared to 200,239,000. Like I said, something to keep in mind is that they are growing, so of course their liabilities also have to grow with. They don't have to, but that's just the pattern that I see among a lot of companies, etc., etc. But in total liabilities, they have 878,096,000 compared to 255,700,000. And here's where we really see the power of growth, but also the expense of what it is to grow. When you're growing very quickly, It's probably a little more expensive when in comparison to when you're growing at a slower rate. And these companies are just forced to grow so quickly. Obviously, all that comes with an expense. So basically, around $600,000, $600 million, excuse me, of stuff they don't have to pay right away, but they will pay eventually. Now we'll go ahead and skip stockholders' equity. Maybe leave all of this stuff for another video. Next thing we want to go ahead and look at, and what everybody is certainly looking at, is this bad boy right here. Revenues. How much money are we bringing in? What's the wage? What are we getting paid for all this hard work that we're doing? So, again, we have two different timelines, 3 months ending in September 30th, 9 months ending in September 30th. So, this one is just this quarter here. And then this is going to go ahead and be pretty much from the start of the year up to year to date, this quarter ending in September 30th. And then here we're comparing the quarter ending in September 30th of 2019 with the quarter ending in September 30th of 2020. And they are doing the same thing on this side, but for the 9 months basically. So now that we've established that, let's go ahead and look at just this quarter. This quarter we've seen pretty much an increment of $50 million, right, in just revenue. 95 million compared to 154. Now, obviously, that revenue did come as a cost, 23 million compared to 33 million. I want to go ahead and say that this is about a 50% increase, and so is this approximately, give and take. Not exact, but approximate. Now, on a gross profit, how much did we make? What is your revenue minus your cost of revenue? Well, for the quarter of 2020, it's going to be 120 million, right? Which is nice and a pretty big jump compared to 72 million last in 2019. We definitely see some growth there. However, there was other stuff that we spent money on, and when I mean we, I mean Datadog. They're putting some money into research and development for sure, and now that can go ahead and mean a lot of things. But they're also investing in sales and marketing. Obviously, Datadog is not going to go ahead and just have customers pour in for the heck of it. No, they're going to have to go out there and really sell themselves, either through sales reps or through commercials, etc., etc. And they have been spending a good chunk of money, 38 million last 2019, excuse me, compared to 57 million. I also want to say it's about a 50% increase, maybe approximately. Moving on from there, general and administrative, so just the offices and stuff, we're looking at 9 million compared to 16 million, for a total operating expense of 76 million in 2019, that quarter, with 129 million. Now, we're getting closer, guys, to our bottom line. Are we making a profit, right? So we have a gross profit of 120 million, but we spend 129 million for a deficit of this quarter of 9,267,000. As mentioned before, this may be a lot of money to a single individual, but for a company, it's really not a lot. Last year they lost 4 million. Like I said, not a lot of money, but it does seem like they lost more money this quarter than they did last quarter. Interestingly, if we go to this side, in 2019, for the 9 months ending in September, we have $17 million loss compared to a $4 million loss. So that's something definitely interesting to look at, because it may be telling us that the company is going in the right direction, even though they are losing money. And as we saw, they have a lot of cash to burn still. So of course, guys, borrowing money, and at some point, every company probably borrows money. They got to go ahead and pay some interest. So we're looking at $12 million of interest, compared to 17 million. 2019 interestly nothing, maybe because maybe for a couple of reasons. Maybe they just weren't due to go ahead and be paying that yet, and it just happens to be that this year they're going to start paying it, and for future years. Or maybe they didn't borrow any money at this point. That's something we can go ahead and look further into. For 2020, up to September 30th, it looks like they've made payments of 17,424,000, which, like I said, for the amount of cash we have, it's not a bunch of money. I don't think it's something to be too worried about. And now we have other different type of expenses that we've also paid. 7 million here, 5 million here. But at the end of the day, what everybody wants to look at, and what I'm definitely interested in looking at, if I'm gonna go ahead and invest in this stock, is here. Either net gain or net loss, guys. Are these guys profitable yet? Some people only invest in companies that are profitable, such as Warren Buffett. Other people know that a company will eventually be profitable, and so there is opportunity for growth even if the company is not profitable yet. So, looking at Datadog, Datadog is not profitable yet. They are still losing money year over year. And I think something important to note is that a lot of companies that people consider, very trustworthy, companies that have been around for a long time, such was Tesla until recently, and Uber is still operating at net loss, although they're a huge company. So, Datadog, $15 million net loss just this quarter. But as mentioned before, is $15 million really a lot of money when you have over $1 billion in marketable securities? I definitely wouldn't be too scared about this company going broke anytime soon. They have enough cash to go ahead and not break the bank. But there you have it, guys. We'll go ahead and end here in page 4. I think it's a good spot to end, especially for those beginners out there. Like I said, if there's vocabulary on here that you don't understand, you can always send me a message or leave a comment, and I'll try to do my best to explain it. Having that said, though, what we just reviewed is really the start of understanding this business in general. The rest of the 10Q gives a lot more information about the business model. They break down different financial lines as well as explain how they come up with those numbers. In general, I think that if you're curious about the company or here to make a quick buck, what we review will probably be enough for you to make an educated guess about the current status of the company. However, if you're just super hyped about the company, you want to know the inner works, what they're paying their executives, how many shares are outstanding, uh, what different revenue streams they have, who's funding their debt, how much it's costing them to finance, what the risks are associated with investing in Datadog. That last one is actually pretty crucial. All these things and more are found in the rest of the document. The document is 66 pages, and a lot of it tends to repeat itself. But there's some things on there that you can go ahead and skip. But in general, it just gives really good information about the company. And what my goal is to go ahead and visit, different parts of these documents at later times. Because if we were to go over the whole thing, I'd have a 2-hour video here or more. And so with that, it'll go ahead and conclude this video. I'm super stoked that we looked at this 10Q because I plan to share so much more with you guys. The 10K should be dropping anytime here soon, so we'll be looking at the 10K, which is another financial statement, a lot longer, obviously. The reason I'm really excited about the 10K is you can sometimes see the trajectory of a company going back years, and numbers are just sometimes mind-blowing. It really gets you thinking about the amount of money that there is out there in the general market. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe below. If you found this video remotely helpful, just go ahead and leave something. Go ahead and give positive feedback to the channel. I'll be uploading a few more of these and some other topics as well. Just let me know if you guys have an idea or if you guys want me to go ahead and share something. I definitely can. Or if there's anything you guys are interested in. With that, thank you guys for watching once again. And this was Abenomics.